Now I have the pleasure of introducing and turning it over to Jason Chernock, who will be moderating this session. Jason serves as Director of Programs and Partnerships for MedShare. Jason joined MedShare in 2014 and has 18 years of experience working for nonprofit, community, and economic development organizations. We here at PQMD are also lucky to have Jason as an active member of PQMD's Knowledge and Innovation Committee. So without further ado, we are pleased to bring you this technology showcase. And thanks, Jason, and over to you.
Thanks, EJ. Good morning, everyone. It is good to see so many people on this call today. And I think we have quite a large turnout. I know that folks are still joining and there's a lot of crises happening in the world right now, but we had, I think, close to 100 people register in advance to participate. So we're just really pleased. As EJ said, I have been with MedShare for close to 10 years now. MedShare is a Atlanta-based U.S. international aid organization or nonprofit organization, members of PQMD. Our mission is to improve the quality of life for people, communities, and our planet. We do that by sourcing donated medical supplies and equipment and redistributing them around the world. So donations of medical product and the technology to manage those is a central concern to our organization. And I know that it's a concern to many of our peer organizations as well. We have 4 panelists that are going to be presenting on different technologies. And so I'm not going to take too much time before we get started. I just really want to thank everyone. I'm pretty impressed that this many people joined an hour-and-a-half online forum to talk about technology. It tells me a couple things. It tells me it's timely, and it tells me it's something that a lot of organizations are struggling with. And certainly our organization has gone through our own journey around inventory management and supply chain tracking, and it can be a pretty painful journey. And the best way to work through that is really to learn from others. So we are going to get started just to kind of organize how this is going to flow. We have 4 presenters. Each panelist is going to present for about 10 or 12 minutes. We're going to save really most of the questions for the end, so we make sure that everyone has a chance to get through their presentation. And then you can send me questions. You can send them to the PQMD staff, or you can put them in the chat, and we will come back to them at the end. A reminder to our panelists that likely no one on here is an IT professional. So remember just to keep the jargon to a minimum and acronyms to a minimum. That goes for me as well. And then at the end, there is going to be a slide with everyone's contact information. So if you want a more thorough demonstration of the technology or the tool, you'll be able to contact each individual and they can set that up. Okay. So let's kick things off with David and IMC, and I'm just going to introduce each presenter as we go. So David Alarcon is Vice President of Corporate Finance at International Medical Corps, an excellent organization. IMC provides life-saving healthcare and training that builds self-reliance for people on the front lines of war, disaster, and disease in 30 countries. David has more than 25 years of experience in finance and humanitarian assistance and oversees all corporate functions related to accounting, reporting, budgeting, treasury, technology, all the fun stuff, including application design and pharmaceutical supply chain management. He has some impressive degrees, and David, we are delighted to have you join us this morning. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I believe our friends at PQMD are going to be forwarding the slides. Is that right, Victoria? Sure. Okay. All right. It's all yours.
Thank you. So just, I am not heavily in technology. I oversee a couple of channels in the organization. And given the amount of time, I didn't think it would it'd be difficult to show you the power of the application in such a short period of time. So I thought that I would sort of tell you a story. And it's a story about how we use the application and about what the application sort of means to us and the communities that we support. So many of you will remember that not long ago, when you went to your doctors and you received a prescription, it came on this little nice piece of paper with his name and address. And I'm sure you noticed that he had really, really bad handwriting. Most doctors normally do. And you probably, like me, wondered why your teachers wouldn't get upset about the bad handwriting that these doctors had. I know that my fourth grade teacher, Ms. Nepley, probably cringed every time she saw a prescription. Anyways, you took this little piece of paper to your pharmacy and you waited while it was filled. Today, your doctor most likely transmits this prescription via an electronic medium to the pharmacy of your choosing. This means that by the time you arrive at the counter, chances are that all you do is pay for your prescription. And unless you have questions for the pharmacist, you sort of just go on your way. For some of us in states that are a little bit less temperature forgiving, there's always even the option of going through the drive-through to pick it up. You don't even have to leave your car. And on the last point, you can even opt for text messaging, right? When your prescription's ready to either go pick it up, and even lets you know before you're about to run out of a specific medicine for a refill. So what most of us don't think about is the supply chain that keeps everything running in the background. The necessary supplies and materials and the pharmaceuticals that clinics and pharmacies have in our community. It just happens, things just kind of fall into place. And this isn't necessarily how it works in the places where we operate. There's a location in South Sudan, in a town called Alarcon, where IMC provides primary healthcare services via this clinic. And one of the services we provide is pharmaceutical dispensing. Can we go to the next slide? So our dispensary there has a pharmacist, and his name is Malik. And he's been with the International Medical Corps for years. Patients, when they come to the clinic, they queue, they come through the clinic, and if they have a prescription, they will come to Malik with this piece of paper with the prescription written on it. And patients are usually on average can wait up to 85 minutes for their medicine. Temperatures today in Malakal reach 39 degrees Celsius. That's 103 Fahrenheit. And these patients come from pretty far. A lot of them walk or take whatever means of transportation is available to come and see our clinic staff and Malik. Malik will receive this prescription from the patient. He will check the storeroom to see if the medicine is available. And if the medicine is available, Malik will go through the patient history to ensure that the prescription that is being prescribed is not going to harm the patient. He will check noted allergies to ensure that there's no allergic reactions, which could cause the patient harm. If he dispenses the pharmaceutical, he will manually transcribe the information onto several documents to ensure that the medicines moving off the shelf have the proper documentation and appropriate paper trails to support the movement. Malik will spend 5 minutes on this transaction, and at International Medical Corps, on average, our pharmacist dispense 2 medicines per transaction. In January, just to give you an idea, our South Sudan team dispensed a total of 10,412 prescriptions. At 5 minutes per prescription, that's a lot of man hours. It's actually 3,717 man hours spent on prescriptions. After a long day, Malik and his colleagues will spend several hours into the night updating what we call the consumption report. He will also update the bin cards, he'll tidy up the storeroom, and then he'll shut down for the night. The consumption report will then be sent over to his facility manager, who will then consolidate, fix any errors that need to be corrected, answer any questions, and then he will send it out to a medical directors in Juba, where his team will consolidate this report along with various other reports from South Sudan. The team in Juba will generate orders from the central warehouse to replenish the inventory in Malakal, and other facilities. The warehouse manager, if the medicines are available, will dispatch them to Malika so that Malik can have the needed medicines to treat patients that come in to see him. These medicines will go on you in flights, and these are 3 times a week, sometimes 2, and sometimes none. The process that I just described very quickly has a lot of documents attached to it, and I chuckle because it's a good number of documents. They include stock cards, patient files, daily consumption reports, monthly consumption reports, facility reports, good issue orders, way bills, stock reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they contain hundreds of pieces of information between these reports, and much of it is repetitive. Just to give you an example, the monthly consumption report takes about 7 days to complete in total. Our teams in Juba spent a lot of hours orchestrating the supply chain to ensure that Malik and his teams have the needed medicines, and we call this the last mile. Hard as we try to improve the last mile, studies show that a lot of resources are lost at the last mile of the supply chain. This is due to a combination of factors: poor planning, overstock scenarios, expired medications, wastage, theft, and just the sheer lack of visibility into a supply chain that's mostly managed on paper, if at all, at the last mile. Go to the next slide, please. So how are we dealing with this at International Medical Corps? In 2018, we set out to address these clinical and supply chain complexities and to improve our last mile. Our doctors, logisticians, pharmacists, and technology teams came together to find a solution to this challenge we were having. We needed a tool that supported our operations, that was fit for purpose, that supported how we did business, and we needed to start with the quantification and forecasting, all the way to receiving, inventory management, distribution, rational prescribing, rational dispensing, all at the pharma level. So our teams developed and launched an application we call PIMS. We're very proud of PIMS. It's Pharmaceutical Information Management System. It's a pretty simple name to remember, and it's definitely revolutionized the way that we plan and manage our pharmaceuticals at the last mile. The application is modular based. I'll talk about a little bit of the modules. It includes a rationalization module. This is where our teams will sit down at the beginning of a program, and they'll plan the pharmaceutical needs for their projects. The dispensing module provides dispensing staff with drug-to-drug interaction notifications. The module also tracks duplication of services, provides a prescription history, and allows medical staff to log and track adverse reactions that patients may have to a specific medicine. In some locations, we use PIMS as a warehouse application, taking advantage of its good receipt module, transfer module, and inventory module. The application was built to allow it to fit to our operating context. It allows IMC to deploy and customize the use for different locations that we operate. How we do business in Misrata is very different than the DRC. And we found that the simple design, the agile application, the modules allow us to not have to have the teams change the way they're doing business, but adjust the tool to fit the way that they operate. And I think the simplicity of the application, its modular design, I think, has been the cornerstone of our user adoption at International Medical Corps. We've linked the application to our procurement and warehouse ERP. So this gives us a full view of the life cycle of a medicine from the moment it was planned to when it was procured or donated, and then received and dispensed out to a patient. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick representation of the landing page. This is a configurable dashboard, and because it's modular based, it's also role based, meaning that you have access to the information your role within the supply chain requires you to have access to. It provides graphical representations of quantities of pharmaceuticals that you use in your programs and the types. It shows you inventories that are moving from central warehouses to dispensaries, or sometimes from dispensary to fill a gap. It shows you dispensing patterns by location, dispensing patterns by physicians, correlations of dispensing patterns between physicians and attending staff, gives you alerts on expiry, inventory, overstock alerts, out of stock alerts, et cetera. And all of these are configurable. If you want to put a 14-day lead time for it to warn you on expiring medicine, or a 30-day lead time, it'll ping you. It has multiple ways to ping you via email, via the dashboard, can even send text messages. Last slide. So I wanted to share some KPIs from South Sudan, Yemen, and I'll touch a little bit on some of the things we've seen in Jordan. So I spoke about the 85 minutes that patients were waiting. In South Sudan, we've lowered that to 16 minutes. We had a situation a couple of weeks after the application went live, where the medical director was visiting Malakal and got a little bit upset because he thought we sent all the patients home, but the patients were actually receiving their pharmaceuticals timely and moving through the clinic. Our core dispensing time, it's down to 41 seconds. On average, it was between 4 to 5 minutes, and this is the time that the pharmacist takes from the moment he receives the prescription till he goes to the back to check to see if the pharmaceutical is available, updating the bin card, and checking the files. We've seen a 10% decrease in the use of antibiotics in Yemen. And because we are able to track services, we've had zero duplication of service. Early on in Jordan, we found that 10% of the visits that we were seeing were duplications of service. And this is extremely expensive and time consuming for the staff when 10% of your population is coming for duplication of service, especially when you're servicing a large camp, refugee camp. And even when you have a small facility, it's taxing on those working at the facility. We're currently using the application in 110 facilities at International Medical Corps, and this includes Yemen, South Sudan, Libya, Jordan, Central African Republic, DRC, Somalia, and a handful of other locations where we operate. The application is in English, French, and Arabic, and we are currently working on a Somali translation. We have a mobile version on Android that we use and roll out to our medical mobile units when they're going out to remote locations. As of yesterday, and I've had these numbers because we can see what we're doing around the world, we have issued 1.3 million prescriptions, and we have dispersed 2.6 million items, and that's why our average number of items per dispensing is 1.95. So we've got a lot of really rich data from the work. Just some examples in Jordan, per month, their average consumption of paracetamol 500 is 66,503 units, and their daily consumption is 2,216. So some of this data that we've got, has really kind of changed the way that we run our operations and how we plan, and most importantly, the type of services that we can provide to those patients that we care for. Jason, back over to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the presentation and trying to share that story. I know it's hard to share a very robust system in a brief amount of time, and I appreciate you walking us through that. And it's an impressive array of outputs that you're tracking. Can you talk just a little bit about some of the impact you're seeing on kind of patient quality of life and other impacts on healthcare, delivering kind of healthcare outcomes that IMC is able to see with the new system in place?
So, the quality of care and safety of services has just improved drastically. The drug utilization is enhanced due to the alerts of the application. So because it's allowed us to, just a really quick, the snowball effect of what happens at a camp when you run out of the medicine, and everyone thinks that it came, that it's available a week after. You get this massive influx on the clinics, and it can really cripple a small facility. We've done away with those. We've been able to maintain those clinics stocked, avoid outages. So just having people have sort of a faith that the medicines are going to be there that they need. I think that's just really changed the way that we operate. The trust from the community that, hey, I don't have to queue every day for 5 days, that on the 6th day maybe that medicine is going to be there. And it's really helped out a lot for our pharmacists. They're spending much more time with the patients. They're not having to worry about whether this amoxicillin came from BHA or Echo or who funded it. And, it's really just changed the way we operate.
Yeah, letting healthcare providers provide healthcare. Absolutely.
Right.
Well, thank you. Plenty of other questions, but I want to make sure we get to everyone. So kind of save some more for the end. So we're going to switch next to TJ. And TJ, I'm really pleased you're joining us. You and I have known each other for a while. I'm going to read your bio here. I think maybe the most important fact is that you developed an entire application to find the best tasting nachos anywhere in the country that people may be living. And so this is a national audience, so let's make sure we plug that. but in addition, TJ Muehleman is the founder and CEO of Standard Co. It's a company that works with global health organizations to help collect, manage, and analyze their data. TJ sits on a number of technical committees with the WHO, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and works directly with a number of ministries of health around the world around how to use their data. Speaking to us from Seattle with his family, TJ, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jason, I love that intro, and I really love building data systems, and I love impacts of this conversation sort of near and dear to my heart. The database of nachos does serve, it helps people find nachos, so that's impact related as well. But that's just an example of the kinds of things that we've built in the past. And so what I want to talk to you all today about is a platform that we built called NT Deliver. And it's really around optimizing, managing, and visualizing the supply chain for donated medicines to anywhere from 80 to 100 countries, depending on the year. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, which I think is basically all of the information that we just talked about. So Jason did a great job capturing my background, but I have been building data systems for, almost 25 years now, since I got out of school. I am trained as a technologist, but I promise to keep the TLAs, the 3-letter acronyms, to a minimum. But my background's not global health, which is unique because it allowed me to bring several innovations and thoughts to NT Deliver that previously may not have existed. So we'll talk a little bit about those. So next slide, please. So the challenge, here's the challenge. Back in 2016, a variety of pharmaceutical partners got together, and these pharma partners donate a lot of medicine to treat neglected tropical diseases, and in fact, to prevent neglected tropical diseases. Almost 2 billion tablets to be exact. And they're donating them to a lot of countries. There's a lot of partners, there's a lot of information, and they were tracking all of this data in a spreadsheet. Now, for those who are familiar with global health, this won't sound unfamiliar to you. In fact, many of you are very familiar with, hey, we use spreadsheets for a lot of things. And spreadsheets are great, but if you want to look retrospectively, or if you want to do things in the future, if you want to share information, spreadsheets have limitations. So we were brought in to help digitize and create the system that would become NT Deliver. So next slide, please. So the solution is this platform that I mentioned, NT Deliver. It's really around creating a cloud-based tool that is accessible anywhere, anytime, from any device, that allows people to track the status of their shipments. So for example, if I'm in Kenya and I'm expecting a shipment of 20 million tablets of praziquantel, before they would call somebody at WHO who might have the spreadsheet in front of them, may not, they might be on vacation. All of these things have actually happened, and they wouldn't know the status of their shipment until it actually showed up in the country. Well, with NT Deliver, we bring visibility to that shipment, to that donation. And so it is a collaborative tool that brings together pharma partners who are interested in their requests for medicine. It brings together WHO, who's sort of managing the whole process. It brings together shipping and 3PL partners who are actually shipping the goods. And most importantly, it brings implementing partners and Ministry of Health personnel all into one system where they can exchange information and they can see the status of their donations. And in fact, it's accessible at ntdeliver.com. You don't need a special login, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But anybody can visit this tool anytime to check the status of a donation. Next slide, please. So who uses NT Deliver? So right now, it's primarily used in the neglected tropical disease space, but we have a variety of partners from GSK, Johnson & Johnson, AZI. We just onboarded Novartis, Merck in Germany, and a variety of others who are accessing this tool to track the status of donations. And the next slide, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So what I want to talk about over these next 3 or 4 slides is sort of what does NT Deliver actually do? What is the functionality? And given the limited time, I won't do a demo, but I'll show some screenshots and I'll walk through some scenarios to kind of give you a feel for what the tool does. But at its core, there's kind of 4 areas that it focuses on: planning, reporting, tracking, and sharing. And the first 3 I'll kind of cover in the next few slides, but sharing is probably one of the bigger innovations that we brought to this tool. As I mentioned, in the first half of my career, I built data systems for a variety of kind of consumer-focused audiences. And one thing that we found when we built data systems for those audiences was that data transparency and data accessibility had all kinds of far-reaching positive implications, meaning the easier it is to get to data, the easier it is to share data, the more likely people were to use a system and the more likely you were to find impact in that. And so back in 2018, we released NT Deliver with a freely available version that people could access without a login or without special invitation or special access. And so that was a huge step forward for the community in terms of tracking medicines. Next slide, please. So planning. So this is a screenshot, not the prettiest screenshot, but planning, as you can all imagine, is a critical component to supply chain. We need to know how many medicines or diagnostic toolkits or what have you are expected in a given country for a given program. And prior to this, the awareness of the planning process was very limited. Nobody really had visibility into it. Now it's provided a glimpse into the planning process for what WHO is expecting programs to need in certain countries. On top of that, we added an automation that allows us to use historical data, population growth expectations, and a variety of other factors to automate the forecast for what we thought would happen. And that is a critical component to kind of getting more and more information in front of stakeholders when they need it, and so they can make good decisions. So this dramatically reduces the amount of time to compile information. Next slide, please. Tracking. Okay, so tracking is probably the bread and butter of NT Deliver. It's the thing that people most often come to it for. It's what drives thousands of people to use the system in about 100 countries. And it's exactly what you think it is. We've all ordered something on, or many of us have likely ordered something on Amazon, and you want to know what the status of that shipment is. Is it being delivered today? Is it leaving the warehouse? What have you? And we brought that same sensibility to NT Deliver to provide clarity around the status of a shipment. So we actually track about 100 different variables for a given shipment. When was it requested? When was it shipped? All of those kinds of things. But we really narrow in on about 10 different KPIs or milestones that allow us to do a couple of really neat things. One, we can actually track the location of a shipment in terms of the supply chain. 2, we can actually predict whether that shipment's going to be on time or late. And 3, we can actually send out information, emails and WhatsApp messages to various parties that say, hey, this is what's happening with this shipment. This is the, it's been booked, it's been shipped, it's en route, so on and so forth. We have a number of integrations with DHL and other partners to kind of provide the most real-time automated information possible, so that people who are distributing these medicines know where the shipments are. Next slide. Okay, last mile. So this is the last kind of demo slide I'll talk about, and then we'll talk about impact. When NT-Deliver was first built, it was designed as a kind of first mile or procurement or shipping tool that really, again, provided visibility around the status of a shipment. So again, if I'm in Kenya and I'm expecting 20 million tablets of praziquantel for mass drug administration, I want to know where those tablets are. And the tool kind of solved that problem. But what problem it did not solve at first was, once the tablets get to a country, what happens to them? So WHO, implementing partners, ministries of health, pharma partners have a real vested interest in knowing, where are these tablets once they get to the country? Have they been used? Are there any reverse logistics implications that we need to kind of think about? What utilization? So if we sent them 20 million tablets, how many of those tablets were used and how many remain? Those questions remained unanswered until 2019 and 2020, when we rolled out an inventory module. So the way this inventory module works is it's sort of nifty, is that it's designed to be super simple. Nobody has to install a special program or go into any specialized training. It's a really simple survey that gets sent to them via WhatsApp and email that says, hey, how many tablets of praziquantel do you have in your district or in your county? And that data rolls up. And we can look at what was planned for use in that county or district versus what was actually used. So that gives us kind of utilization statistics. It gives us some really interesting insights. And what we found, we've been now running this in Kenya for the last 3 years, is that this particular module is that it provides an important accountability tool to the Ministry of Health, and it provides data transparency. Again, going back to the ethos of this whole system is to provide transparency and clarity on supply chain. And so the tool is being planned to be rolled out in several more countries this year, which we're excited to see. It was supposed to be rolled out, and then COVID happened and obviously delayed further deployment of the last mile tool. But we're excited to see it deployed elsewhere this year and next year. So next slide. So obviously, the tool's been live since 2018. And one thing that we really love to do at Standard Co is not only deploy data tools, but is to really understand the impact of those tools. If you're not actually looking at the data, and if you're not actually measuring the impact, then a lot of the good that comes out of deploying a data tool is lost. So we've spent a lot of time really analyzing the data to kind of figure out how things have gone. So let's move to the next slide, and I'll walk y'all through this. So I'll kind of stay at the 40,000 foot level, because some of this gets into the weeds of neglected tropical diseases and how they administer drug campaigns. But I'll suffice to say that in 2018, what we were looking at was about 9.52 months from the moment a country says, I want 20 million tablets of praziquantel, to the moment that those drugs were actually administered, was about 9.52 months. And the goal for drug distribution is, distribution of these medicines is around 9 months, less than 9 months. If it's less than 9 months, then we've been successful. That means we've gotten the medicines there on time for them to be administered. But in 2018, we were seeing they were arriving on average 4 days late. Right. So that pushes the drug campaign back, and it obviously has far-reaching implications for everything to be that late. In 2019, we actually saw that go from 9.52 months to 8.45 months, so that the medicines were arriving almost 30 days before the drug campaign. The goal is 30 days, and they were at 25.36. So this is obviously great news, right? We actually now have data to prove what's happening in the supply chain and the effect of the tool. I am not smart enough to do the statistical analysis to prove that NT-Deliver was the reason for this improvement, but other people much smarter than me actually did. And there's a PLOS NTD paper out there that proves that the work that we did in the supply chain is what led to this improvement. And so we're really pleased to see that as a result of the work we've been doing. And then the last slide. Couple more statistics about impact. So we saw a 37% improvement on deliverability. So if medicines arrive 30 days or sooner before the drug campaign, that means they're on time. And so we saw a 37% improvement. And then one other thing that we saw in 2018 was that 56% of all orders were issued in 1 of 2 months. So if you're familiar with supply chain, you know that this cripples supply chains to have a glut of requests come in just a couple of months. And because of the tool, we were able to kind of highlight this and point this out. And because of that, WHO was able to more evenly distribute those orders so that now 26% of orders came in 2 months as opposed to 56%. So this made the deliverability a much more impacted deliverability and helped the overall health of the supply chain. So that covers the impact in terms of what the tool does. Just sort of as a recap, NT-Deliver is cloud-based. It's available anywhere, anytime. And it is modular as well. So there's various pieces of the tool that can be kind of broken apart and used in isolation if need be. So happy to answer any questions y'all might have now.
Thank you, TJ. Appreciate the overview. Speak a little bit, because we were talking earlier just about the insistence on the transparency to the tool and kind of where you ran into some conflicts within the kind of the global health space. Some of that perspective you brought from your background.
Yeah, so transparency is always can be viewed as a double-edged sword, and especially in global health, I think there was a real concern that sharing this data was going to highlight, problem areas that people didn't want to talk about. And the reality is, if you don't shed light on bottlenecks, then you can't fix them. And so we again sort of brought this history of building consumer applications, not in global health, where transparency was really key in providing clarity. We brought that to global health, and it took us about 2 years of arguing and many trips to Geneva and a lot of presentations of data and information to finally convince the stakeholders that this would be impactful. And in reality, that it turned out to be the biggest impact of NT-Deliver was just publishing this data. So we fought and we continued to battle that, and now it's well embraced by the WHO community. So it's been a big win, and I'm glad we kept fighting that battle.
Mm-hmm. And what was that impact of insisting on the transparency? What do you think that achieved?
Yeah, so what it achieved is the people on the ground no longer had to go through special channels or conduits or emails or hope that they knew who to contact to check the status of an order. And now it was all right there on the web, just as it is right now. And in fact, anybody can subscribe to receive notifications on shipments. And I think because of that, I think there's this sort of observer effect that when people know they're, that the data is being published, that they want to make sure that they put the most quality information out there. They don't want to be the bottleneck. So I think it kind of separated the people who wanted to make sure the good quality data was getting in there, and the people who needed that data, and it made it all work.
Yeah, well, thank you. We'll come back. I see we have some questions coming in the chat, but we're going to come back to those at the end and move on to Michael. So thanks for joining us, Michael. Michael Wrigglesworth is the Senior Director of Program Strategy and Data Solutions at the Max Foundation. He spent the last 20 years working to increase access to oncology medication for cancer patients around the world. He has helped design, build, and manage the operational teams and programs for the organization since its early days. The Max programs accelerate health equity by delivering medication, technology, and services to patients facing cancer and other critical illnesses, focusing on the ones that no one else is helping. He's very passionate about technology's role in global health equity, and is currently speaking to us from Maui in Hawaii, which I think should really be the first line of your bio. going forward, Michael. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's depends on where you're based. With my Seattle colleagues, they like me not to mention that so much this time of year. But I will share that I've really just been hanging on every word so far, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present today. So let's see if the IT guy can share his PowerPoint here, shall we? Okay. Is that showing?
Yes.
Okay. So I am Michael Wrigglesworth. I'm the Senior Director of Program Strategy and Data Solutions for the Max Foundation. And today I'm going to talk about PATS, or our Patient Access Tracking System. So a little bit about Max. We are a global health organization founded over 25 years ago by Pat Garcia Gonzalez in honor of her son, Max Rivarola, who passed away from leukemia in 1991. As Jason said, we are on a mission to accelerate health equity by delivering medication, technology, and services to patients facing cancer and other critical illnesses, and really trying to focus on those no one else is helping. And we believe that what we're really doing is providing dignity and hope to patients, and trying to create a world where geography is not destiny. So our flagship program with which we do this is called Max Access Solutions. It is our own unique access model that we developed and launched in 2017, and is really the result of 20 years of experience operating access programs in low and middle income countries. We have been able to, I think, find how you can successfully help patients navigate that last mile piece and access available treatment. And we've been able to eradicate disparities in patient survival in that time. What were the problems that we needed to solve to be able to do this? In low and middle income countries, starting with the patient side of things, there's a number of limitations, socioeconomic, something as simple as getting to the doctor, making your visits, getting your follow-up, understanding your disease. There's social stigma, being able to tell your employer that you have cancer, or being worried about losing your job because of that. All these unique experiences that culminate in what we think of as the patient journey. From the healthcare providers, we see doctors and healthcare providers working in very challenged situations, staggering case loads that would just really blow your mind when you're thinking of it from a high income country point of view. Capacity challenges, training, infrastructure, diagnostic capabilities, all challenged, and of course, available treatment options. And then we look at the supply chain side of things. We see importation, customs clearance, taxes, things like that, and being able to do that safely and be GDP compliant. And of course, anytime you're dealing with bureaucracy or red tape that can make a process take a while, you're going to be up against shelf life challenges when it comes to importing medications, right? So on top of all those kind of constants, we get these external factors that are at play, COVID or political instability, which on any given cycle can kind of arise and throw off, a shipment, stop patients from going to the doctor, things like that, right? So how do we address this? With Max Access Solutions, we really did what we always do, which is put the patient at the center of our program, and focus on understanding the patient and that understanding that we've developed over these years. we really found that most access programs that we were operating on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies before we created Max Access Solutions were really focused on, they were built around the drug, right? And as a result, the challenges lied in not just making the drug available, but ensuring that the patient was able to access it. So we believe you need these 4 pillars in able to ensure access beyond simply making the drug available. First and foremost, we have a network of healthcare providers and disease experts in countries, in the over 75 countries where we work. They are really our first line in this. They are responsible for patient identification, prescribing and treating the patient. They are like our extended Max team members. We, in addition, have our in-country Max team members and regional teams, who I really think of as the secret sauce of the Max Foundation and our model. And so I've been with the organization for 20 years now. A lot of my regional colleagues have been with the organization 10, 15, 20 years as well. They really are very driven, patient-focused group. And I think they speak the language, so to speak, of both the patient and the physician, both literally and figuratively, and kind of really act as a facilitator in the interaction and in those processes, and understanding the needs of both. Of course, we need available treatments that are made available by partnerships with our pharmaceutical and manufacturing partners. And then we've created now this global shipping and logistics supply chain to move drug around the world into the hands of the patients. And kind of the backbone to all of this is PATS, which is our cloud-based software that we've developed in-house and has evolved with our Max programming over the years. And PATS is role-based and allows each of these stakeholders to see the data that they need in real time in order to make this happen. Okay, and the impact of PATS is really the story of the growth and the scaling of Max's programmatic work. So PATS predated the launch of Max Access Solutions as a model. We developed the first version of it around 2005, and we were really just operating, managing access programs. And so we went from one drug with one company treating one disease, and over the course of the next 15 in those like 15 years since that we got that first program, PATS kind of evolved and the program evolved, and we were able to really scale from a few hundred patients to tens of thousands of patients, while at the same time keeping our Max team very lean. We've never had more than 100 people working for Max. We're at the most we've ever had right now. I think we're about 85 employees globally. So to be able to manage individual caseloads of tens of thousands of patients at any given time with that size of a team, PATS really had to be able to go very granular and capture that case-specific detail, but then also be able to batch things and make sure our team members knew about which cases they needed to follow up with at exactly the right time. And then I think an important milestone along this trajectory was this launch of Max Access Solutions as a model, as a business model, and PATS really being the facilitator of us being able to do that. And when we launched Max Access Solutions, suddenly now we are able to start up new programs with new drugs seamlessly. And we also add this entire supply chain suite of features to track the drug around the world and into the hands of the patients. Inputs required to do this come in both patient side and supply chain side of things, we really like to track every data point that we need and able to ensure access, and we try for not a single one after that. So we are always trying to hone this process and see where we can reduce data entry or reduce friction in that process, at least, because we know that every data requirement is an extra burden on our physicians who already are, as I mentioned, working in really challenging situations. So we need to know who the patient is, their contact information, where they're being treated, what disease they have, and what the prescription is, right? And when they need follow-up, as well as on the supply chain side, when they've been given drug, how much drug, and where the drug shipments are, in their journey around the world, and what SKUs and things like that are available in each country. So what can we do with that? We can ensure that we're running these programs safely. We can ensure we can measure impact of the program and share M&E information with our pharmaceutical partners, as well as analyzing data for our own programmatic efficiency and improvements. And we can ensure that we are being good stewards of this valuable product that we're moving around the world, and doing that in an efficient manner. I will say that while we're tracking individual data points for each patient, and while we are tracking when they start and end treatment and what that looks like, PATS is not a research tool. It is really just a tool to ensure patient access, so we can use it for implementation science sort of purposes, but it's not a research tool in the academic sense. So I think that's important to note. So kind of in conclusion, by using PATS, we've been able to scale our programmatic work while keeping a lean team. We're able to look at patient outcome data, facilitate safety reporting, and then planning and forecasting capabilities by aggregating that data to a higher level, and seeing how much drug is needed around the world, and then run an efficient supply chain with that. And since we launched Max Access Solution, we've now have helped over 43,000 patients in over 75 countries. And we're currently managing 14 different drugs right now in that portfolio.
Thank you, Michael. That was really interesting. Thanks for walking us through that. So with all the data that you are collecting, how has your team at the Max Foundation been able to use that around patient care and improving patient care? Kind of what are you seeing around the impact of all this data in terms of the care you can provide to patients?
Yeah, it comes down to a case-by-case basis, I think. So I think I have see if I have, yeah. Okay, so I pulled an example here of just really what I mean by ensuring access. So my colleague Sweta in Nepal, I really believe that a software is only as good as the people that are using it. And as I said, I really think that what PATS is something that can empower our dedicated team members. So my colleague in Nepal, Sweta, PATS can flag a case for, as it did in the case of Mina here, to say Mina's not going to the doctor. Mina hasn't made her appointment, and Mina hasn't been dispensed drug when we think that she should have. Sweta then has that contact information and has that ability to contact both the physician and the patient, talk to Mina, and find out that actually the reason she's not accessing the drug that's available and sitting at the pharmacy for her is that the drive to the clinic was 6 hours, and they had been experiencing some severe weather, and there were mudslides, and the roads just were impassable. So Sweta then can reach out and take that information and now we have a new partner institution set up that's closer to Mina's home, and now Mina is taking her drug very regularly. Like, we see that. So yeah, PATS can't do that. Only Sweta can really do that, but PATS can give Sweta the information that she needs in real time to be able to do that. And I will share that this is something that is where PATS is just kind of constantly evolving, and really what I think is the secret is that we're able to listen to this feedback from our partners in country and really understand these pain points and challenges, and finding out what stops a patient from accessing a drug that is available. So a lot of our Africa colleagues have mentioned that we have challenging internet speeds, or just unreliable internet in general. So we were able to create a mobile application that works offline and can sync with PATS when the connection is found. And then for our pharmacy partners, we're able to integrate WhatsApp so that they don't have to log into PATS, that we can have them reply via WhatsApp and confirm that their shipment that we think was received, or provide dispensation records to us in a manner that doesn't require a constant internet connection and sitting down at a computer and entering something, right? So just constantly innovating in order to get around these challenges that our regional teams tell us about.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our final presenter. So let's go to Colleen, and I'll just remind everyone, so we're going to hear from one more presenter, and then feel free to put questions in the chat or send them to myself or Victoria or Joan Marie, and we'll be sure to get to them when we're done. So Colleen, thank you very much for joining us. Colleen Harrisson-Dodds is a Director of Logistics and Systems at International Health Partners. With a background in system integration, she's been heading up IHP's OS development since 2015. Focusing on supply chain and compliance, she is the IHP lead in process improvement and technology innovation. So thank you for joining us, Colleen. It's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, it's a pleasure to speak to you all. It's really fascinating to hear about all the amazing tech that's happening in this space. So I'm really excited as well at the opportunity to tell you a little bit about BOAS. Next slide, please. So the BOAS system, which is International Health Partners, or IHP's system that we've built. You may also know it by another name. It's called Power, and it's licensed by Johnson & Johnson. So it's the same system, it's just their version. International Health Partners, IHP, we've been in this space for coming up to 20 years now. And the way that we work is that we work with donor companies to identify products, and we also work with NGOs. So we sit in the middle and we try and matchmake that process. So a little bit about where we are now. The BOAS system is the kind of fruits of a project that we've been working on to improve the donations process. When we started, or when I started on this journey, we had quite an old legacy system at IHP, which was being phased out. And we did a bit of research, but there was nothing on the market. There was nothing out there that kind of spoke to us about what we needed to do in this space. And so we thought, why take something else that might not work and we'd have to change? Let's just, let's go and make something dedicated that matches what we need as our the unique position that we are in this space. Let's build our own, and then let's make it available to other people that might need to use it. So the kind of approach that we've taken is an iterative approach. So we've been working on the system, as I say, for many years. We've had loads of updates. We did a recent update about 2 months ago, bringing some more development onto the system. And it's collaborative. So we at IHP, we've got 66 companies and around, I think it's about 19 NGOs who are active in the system, which gives us about just over 100 users on our system. And then the Power system has about 58 organizations in the system, and we're coming on to about 183 different users. So we're getting lots of varied sources of feedback, which we're using for continuous improvement in the system and this iterative design. Some of the other things that we were looking at when we started this project was to make sure that we made something that was kind of needs-led. That's a requirement for us, that we have a needs-led approach to donations. I sit in compliance, and so we want to support standards and processes, improving the quality of donations, kind of seeking best practice, and embed that in the system, and make sure that it can increase the impact and efficiencies while doing that. I kind of say that the system is kind of an extension of IHP. It's kind of a physical system of what we do as an organisation. To caveat that, it's not perfect, it's not finished, and we're totally open to suggestions on improvements, modifications, or new areas of development. It's an ongoing project that we are completely dedicated to. Next slide, please. So, yeah, donations management doesn't need to be complicated. This is something that we've kept in mind the whole time when we've been making this system. It's something that we often hear if we're approaching new donors or NGOs that we're working with. Donations management is really complicated. It can be difficult to manage. So we started asking them, why is it complicated? And we got lots of different responses, things like things that we've heard before in this presentations, spreadsheets. They're great for certain things, but the problems that they kind of bring to the table, things like version control. You can often have outdated information or missing information. Some of the other problems with donations management that we found was that different departments and organisations, both on the corporate side and the NGO side, were working in silos and maybe had conflicting processes and poor communication between the departments and what they were doing. Often there was complex processes once you started to delve deep into things, things like repeated information requests, or the information either for the NGO or the corporate was not available when needed. They're asking for information and it's not to hand. The other things around kind of product donations in this space is when products allocated. I mean, is that allocated? Have we finalised that? Oh, it's on a spreadsheet, but did we allocate it to this partner, or has it gone there, or is it allocated to this programme? Kind of the confusion element when you've got maybe different people doing different things. Then coming back to compliance. Who's signing things off? When are they being signed off? Has it been signed off? Can we go forward with this? And kind of issues with supply chain that we were getting as feedback. Oh, well, we've identified a product, but it's not actually available anymore. The product's been sold, or it's been destroyed, or actually, oh, we sent that, or have you sent that? Has it been recorded as sent to this program? What product do we have? So we kind of, from this, we realized that we can't just make something small that just kind of fits something unique. We need something that will support the whole process to try and make it more streamlined and efficient. So next slide, please. So that's what we set out to do. So we set out to create something that captures the whole process from start to finish, meaning that the whole donation process is centralized and it's supporting workflows. How does it work? Well, we have lots of key milestones, which you can see on the slide here, which go from the stock available being added into the system through to it being checked, offered, responded, allocated, kind of moving through that donation journey. We've also got an inventory management module that sits alongside the system, which allows you to do receipt distribution and things like shipping and transfers and manage the inventory alongside that, minimizing dual entry. So if you've got something on one side, it just feeds directly into the other. Kind of standard inventory management functions. Or the other option is that you can also, as it's a modular design, use your own inventory management system and continue the rest of the offers management journey, kind of the confirmation that's been arrived and distribution at local partner or clinic level. The system, because we built it modular, it's fully customizable, so you can pick and choose what you need. We don't license the whole thing. Johnson & Johnson are one of our licensees. We don't license the whole system. They don't have our inventory management module. They just have the offers modules. And that means that you can fit it around your process or existing systems. And so by kind of aligning all of this information at the right place and the right time, you kind of reduce the to and fro, which we found was an issue. And it beginning to increase the visibility of things. If you've got more visible inventory management, because you're using the inventory management module alongside your offers management, you can reduce waste. As I say, the design of the system is around that process, so it's quite bespoke in its way of working. It's designed to maximize the efficiencies. So let's just have a look at it, which is on the next slide. Right. So got a couple of screens here. We can see the dashboard, which is the one at the back. That shows all the live comms. That's kind of the home screen that any users jump into, and that gives them links through to the most actionable actions. So the most recent things, communications that come in, there's links through, and then they can go and follow through with whatever the requirement is on the next steps of that. The other screen here is the offers management screen. As you can see, you've got statuses, you've got unique references for offers so that you can clearly identify them and report on that. You can clearly see who the offers are made to, who's responsible for those offers. You can assign certain users to be responsible for different things in the system. And you can report on all of this, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail. But visually, one of the things that we've worked to is to try and make the system easy to navigate. As I said, this is one of the later iterations of the system, and we've still got improvements that we're making. We've moved to color coding and, like as I said, identification of owners. And this has come from feedback from our partners. So the dashboard has been reshaped a few times recently, just based on the feedback that we're getting from partners, both NGO and corporate, about what they want to see on their screens. And so that's kind of an example of the iterative design that we're working with, and we're continually improving the system in that way. So what does it offer? Just the next slide, please. So it offers quite a lot. It's quite a big system. There's quite a lot of modules. So we've kind of narrowed it down to these things. So you've got global donation tracking. You can understand what regions or parts of an organization are doing at any one time, which gives you obviously increased compliance and oversight if you're running these programs. If I'm based in London and I've got a team somewhere else, I can see what they're up to and see what's happening within the system. As an example of the kind of numbers that the systems are kind of managing at the moment, IHP did about 13 million treatments through it last year. And I know that Johnson & Johnson have done about 60 million units through their system in the last year. So it can cope with a lot, and it's because it's centralized, you can report on all of that and you can get those kind of numbers out. I touched on earlier that we've got live dashboards. Those make easy navigation through the system for immediate tasks. And it means that it's clearly identifiable all the statuses of offers, so you can see what's happening at any given time. This can assist massively with business continuity. You can see if someone's out or if someone's away, you can jump in and you can see where they are in the process. I hope that Kim doesn't mind me mentioning, but J&J had some recent personnel changes. And they would have lost some of their donation detail if they didn't have the Power system, because if it had been on spreadsheets, it had been offline, it had been in emails, there would have been no way for someone else to pick it up and follow through on those offers. And it was able to run smoothly because they could go into Power, they could see the status and continue with the kind of offers and donations that were happening. We've got multi-step approvals management. So there's an entire approvals module which allows users to manage approvals across various parts of an organization or at various parts in the donation process. We understand that approvals are not straightforward and they're not always done at once. They're often done at different stages in the process. But by having them consolidated and together in one system, emails don't get lost, information doesn't get mislaid. You've got auditable kind of chain of approval and who approved it. So it's easy to track and follow what's going on. I have to say that at the moment we're moving stuff into Syria, and approvals are a very, very hot topic because of the kind of restrictions around that. And the approvals module is really helpful with that because we can check every stage what approvals we've got and where we are. We've got communication channels within the system. You can have all of your comms in one place, which initiates email alerts to users as well. So you can see what kind of status a donation is at with the statuses, but you can also see the communications that have been relayed around that. So on top of the kind of moving of the process, you've got the comms, so the communication of we've sent this, or we're going to do this, or we're just waiting for it to be packed, that can be seen throughout the system, and it's easily accessible for multiple people. So if you've got people maybe on different time zones or different shifts, they'll be able to see what's been agreed and discussed. We found that over the summer, when we had lots of people on annual leave, it was really helpful because we could pick up the conversation and continue with our offers that were going out. And then when that person came back, they could see what had been covered and they could pick up from there. So by centralizing those comms, you make sure there's no repetition. You're not sending unnecessary communications out. There's also internal and external comms. So you've got your external comms that are going out to your partners on either side of the system, but also there's internal comms channels. So you can leave notes for your colleagues, I'm waiting for this, or this is being updated, which just means it's easy to pick up things when staff are out or, in meetings. And finally, probably the most, in my mind, my favorite part of the system is the reporting. We've got a full reporting module in there that allows for real-time and annual reporting all in one place. We've got features like reusable templates, so you can go in, you can build a template that you're using maybe regularly, you might be reporting weekly or monthly, build that template, name it what it is, and then everyone's got access to it. They can just come in, they can run that report whenever they need it. So it helps with standardizing the kind of information that you're sharing maybe across org or externally, because everyone's using the same reports. A good example of the kind of new metrics is that you're able to do kind of financial reporting and tax reporting if you need to. Again, I'm going to use a J&J example, but they were able to run financial reporting after we ran through how it could be done on the system, which they had not been able to do before. It was valuation via J&J's internal pricing by local partner and country. Now, this information is really useful when you're running these programs, but if you've got the information not in the right place or easily accessible, you can't run these reports. You don't have that kind of information that you can use. And I know that you can also do tax reporting in the system because it's all fully reportable. The other major thing that is really helpful within the system for the kind of donations process is the cycle time reporting. At IHP, we've been using it to identify pinch points in our processes. So we're able to report on the time between maybe the initiation of a donation through to delivery and every stage within that process, which has led to us being able to improve our own IHP processes. We've been able to calculate recently by integrating a few upgrades that came from this reporting. We were able to streamline some of our direct shipment functionalities in the system. We've been able to save somewhere between 2 and 3 hours a week in our logistics team alone on shipments because we're not duplicating information. So reporting is a really strong function, and as the system grows, we'll be able to capture more and more info and learning and put that back into the system. Next slide, please. Brilliant. So if you're interested to learn a bit more, we run demo sessions and we'd be very happy to do that. I know that contact details will be shared at the end. But if you're already using the system, either IHPs or the power system, and have suggestions or improvements or requests, we would love to hear them. Please feel free to reach out to me. It might be that someone else has already requested it and we move it up our list of things that we've got to implement. So thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate it. I've got some questions for you as well, but since we're running out on time, I know we've got a couple of questions that have come in to the chat, and I'm just going to make sure folks have a chance to ask. There was an initial question that came in around temperature control, tracking temperature control, temperature excursions. TJ, I think that came up while you were presenting, but if you would all want to address that, if that's something that's built into the system, you can start there. TJ, you want to?
Yeah, I could take that one. So that is not a native part of NT Deliver. However, it is something that can be added as an extension. To give you an example, we do something not in the same vein, but we built this as an extension called an expiry alarm. So we take external data from the pharma partners about batches and expiry dates, and we send out alerts to country personnel, WHO personnel, and pharma personnel, alerting them that drugs are about to expire. And so it's similarly, we could do something with temperature excursion, but right now I believe the medicines that are distributed are not temperature controlled. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think they are. But we could do that.
Mhm. Thanks, CJ. Colleen, Michael, David, anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, just from our side, same. It wasn't something that we originally had built into the application, but we are actually now working with an organization to pick up temperature controls. We use when we move shipments, and we'll buy something overseas, we track temperatures. We're just looking at extending that all the way through into our dispensaries and warehouses and having the application display it continuously. It's an expensive process. Every time somebody has to every hour go and check temperatures and all these little fridges, it really, really adds up. Over.
Yeah, thank you. Let me, I'll go to the next question. I think this was something that was on my mind as well. So we're being asked really how kind of treatment centers or distribution warehouses in a country with limited staff can kind of effectively manage the adoption. And that was on my mind as well, sort of the training to in-country staff and the challenges with uptake in the system, kind of getting everyone on board with the new system. Maybe we can start with Colleen and then go to Michael.
Yeah, of course. So we provide standard materials that can be used on and offline to help train users of the system. We run workshops as well with real life scenarios. So every implementation, so when we're using the system, we'll run through, we have a demo site that we use and we can run through some from real life scenarios. Appreciate that some places won't be online, so we've got fail safes in the system, so it is cloud-based, but if it does go down, it auto saves the information that's in there until it comes back on, and then they can continue with entry within the system.
Thanks. Michael, what do you want to add in terms of kind of training in-country staff and
Yeah, I will say we take a country by country approach. A lot of times we're working, either we've worked with big pharmaceutical chains in country. We've also worked with, just a tiny one-person operation with handwritten dispense logs. So anything from interfacing with the software that the clinic is already, or that the pharmacy is already using, to providing support, and it really comes down to finding who has the data and where the least obstacles to getting the data that we need are. So if it's this person, then we find out what their needs are, and if they're internet connectivity challenged, we have mobile app options or WhatsApp options. If there's a language challenge, if the dispense logs are written in Arabic, then we may look at even having an in-country staff person added to help support, or if the patient caseload is large. So it's really adapting to what the situation is in country and identifying who has the data and the easiest place to capture it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and TJ, from your perspective as sort of the non-NGO implementer, in terms of training and resources, what are you seeing around best practices there?
Yeah, I love that question, because I think it speaks to some other panelists said that software is only as good as the people that use it. And an extension of that is oftentimes you see people say, if we can just get a technology solution out there, we'll solve all of our problems. And that's never true. As a technologist, as somebody who loves building systems, you need people who are champions of a tool. So I've found in terms of training and in terms of adoption, you have to have somebody on the ground. I'm in Seattle, we have somebody in London, Hawaii, East Coast. We can only do so much from where we sit. We have to be in the country or have people in the country who are really championing these tools. But in terms of the technology, it has to be simple. I think one of the problems we see time and time again is that there's this onerous reporting demands on people who are already extremely busy, have a lot going on, and simplifying a tool, making it really streamlined so that training isn't even really required. It's sort of self-describing is